Hi folks, welcome to 1 Minute Math. Today we're talking about trig derivatives. If you're in calculus class and your teacher said it's time to learn trig derivatives, yes, you are going to have to memorize them. There are 6, and then 6 more if you count the inverse functions. Trig functions for whose derivatives you just really need to know from memory, but an ounce of understanding goes a long way. It's better than a pound of memory. If you can understand a little bit of where these derivatives come from, it will help you to remember them without having to do so much hard work of just rote memory. So let's start with sine x. The question here is, what is the derivative of sine x? And remember, the derivative of a curve is going to be 0 anytime that curve is completely flat across, which happens most often at turning points. So at all of these turning points of this graph, my derivative is going to have a value of 0. If I look right at the origin, and I count the slope, like I just kind of go by algebra 1 measures to try and find the slope of that line, you can pretty easily convince yourself that that slope is going to be 1. And then over here at a value of pi, I'm going to have a slope of -1, and then a value of 1, and then a value of -1. If I connect those dots, I'm going to use green here to connect all my dots, I get a curve that we know. This curve is not y equals sine x, but it is its friend, y equals cosine x. So in fact, the derivative of sine is cosine because the zeros of the derivative of sine, the turning points of sine, happen at the zeros of cosine and vice versa. Now, cosine's derivative is not just sine. When I say vice versa, I'm talking about the zeros, but the values aren't exactly the same. Hopefully you know this about cofunctions. Any function whose first name is cosine, cotangent, cosecant, it goes downhill. On its starting point, wherever it starts, it's going to come downhill. Cofunctions do that, which means that their derivatives should be negative, because a negative slope is the same thing as saying going downhill. So the derivative of cosine is not sine, but negative sine. Here we've got our 6. These are the ones that you really need to commit to memory. We're not going to develop all of them. There's a whole, you can click the link in the comments to see the whole description of how we come up with the other 4. But sine, the derivative of sine being cosine and the derivative of cosine being negative sine are the foundation for finding the derivatives of the other 4 trig functions.